Another aspect of Hofstede's cultural framework that you should become familiar with is this spectrum of achievement-oriented national cultures versus nurturing-oriented national cultures. An achievement-oriented national culture is a culture that focuses on advancing or achieving something tangible and measurable, a promotion in a new job, for example, or earning more money, or acquiring a new skill, or successfully teaching a group of students and improving their performance, or achieving reductions in poverty, or increases in incomes in a given city or in a given state or in a given country. Tangible, achievement-oriented results. And cultures that value achievement tend to be really good at receiving performance feedback, right? So people want to know what they're doing well. People want to know what they're doing poorly so that they can improve. Achievement-oriented cultures also sometimes tend to focus more on work than on family, right? So there tends to be an imbalance between work and family. On the other side of the spectrum is what we call a nurturing-oriented culture, and this is very much the opposite. In nurturing-oriented cultures, the focus is not so much on achieving or advancing, but it's rather on creating a sense of security for people, right? It's more important for you to be comfortable than to achieve or advance. It's more important for you to be comfortable and happy as opposed to stressing yourself too much in order to achieve something. It's less important for you to receive performance feedback from your boss, because after all, the main point is not necessarily for you to achieve or accomplish something, it's for you to be comfortable, right? And some cultures that do not focus on achieving, they actually find performance feedback to be somewhat uncomfortable. And finally, in some nurturing-oriented national cultures, there tends to be a healthier balance between family and work. Clearly, if your main goal is not necessarily to advance or to achieve, then you're less motivated to dedicate those extra hours to work, and you're okay spending more time on personal activities or family activities. Now, obviously, there are benefits and disadvantages to both of these. One of the benefits of an achievement-oriented culture is that if something critical and urgent needs to be done, an achievement-oriented culture will provide the goals and the rewards and the incentives and the mechanisms for people to achieve, right? On the flip side, what's the downside of a culture that's too achievement oriented? Well, it might become so intense that employees burn out and they stop working and they quit and they move to another organization or another job where it's less intense, right? So some pros and cons there. Similarly, there are some pros and cons of nurturing oriented cultures. One benefit is that employees certainly feel a sense of security and predictability, and they're not stressed very much. They have more time to spend on things that they enjoy and more time to spend with family. That's good. But on the downside, if the organization is going through a difficult period and urgently needs to achieve or change something, nurturing oriented cultures will probably not have the sense of urgency that's necessary in order to achieve what the organization needs to achieve. A couple of quick examples just from my own experience. So, arguably, many years ago, when I was working in Japan, arguably there was a culture in Japanese society that made it very unusual for a company to ever fire an employee, even if that employee wasn't doing a good job, and even if that employee was not performing well in their current environment. And so you had this situation where the Japanese economy was probably too nurturing oriented, where it kept employees around for a long, long time, even if they weren't performing very well. Now, an achievement-oriented culture at the time would have probably done two things. It probably would have given very specific feedback to the employees who weren't doing well. It probably would have offered them an incentive and an opportunity to change. And if they failed, it probably would have moved them out of that job or given them a new role that they were more suited for. Or maybe if they couldn't find a role, they may just ask them to leave the company, for example. So achievement-oriented cultures, again, tend to be much more performance-driven, much more goal and objective-driven, whereas nurturing-oriented cultures tend to be more focused on harmony and a sense of security and predictability for employees. Depending on if you ever lead people in different national cultures in the future, just keep these two dynamics in mind, so you're not surprised if you ever come across them.